Monday Night Football, we have the Denver Broncos taking on the Buffalo Bills. And if you guys remember last year, we had the Denver Broncos on like almost every single primetime slate. It seemed like every week we got Denver in primetime. Hasn't been the case this year, but they are back taking on the Buffalo Bills. I'm about to break it all down here. Going to cover DraftKings and FanDuel, looking at some of the top lineups for Showdown and the players I'm getting the most exposure to, some players I'm underweight to, captain MVP plays, all of that. And the only thing I ask of you is do me a favor, like the video, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Now let's go ahead and look at the lineups that I have in here, starting with DraftKings, and then we'll work on FanDuel. My number one projected DK lineup actually is Russell Wilson in the captain spot with Adam Troutman. The Broncos defense, Javonte Williams, Josh Allen, and then Stefon Diggs. So not quite a Broncos onslaught stack because it's a 4-2 lineup, but still actually my number one projected lineup with a 291.5% sim ROI. Did end up being my highest projected lineup for the DK slate. If we go ahead and look at the duped lineups, none of these made it into my top 150 lineups. The lineup here that is expected to be duped the most today: Josh Allen, Dalton Kincaid, Javonte Williams, Latavius Murray, Samaje Perine, and Stefon Diggs. And then these lineups also expect to be duped a whole bunch. So if you guys want to avoid any lineups that are going to be duped heavily in large field tournaments, you can go and look at this and cross-reference your lineup with some of the ones that are listed here, because those ones probably are going to be very, very difficult to take down a big prize solo if you're playing any of those lineups. Exposures. Let's look at the players that I'm getting the most of for today. And number one most rostered player in that flex spot actually is Dalton Kincaid. 48% of my lineups have him. And actually, most of the players in the flex here, I'm getting a ton of Broncos exposure. Jerry Jeudy, Russell Wilson, Javonte Williams, Courtland Sutton, the Broncos defense. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of my top 6 players here. 5 of them on the Denver side. So looks like I'm going to be building some pretty contrarian lineups here for Showdown, leaning a little bit more towards the Denver side. But maybe my captain exposure leans more towards Buffalo. And yeah, number one most rostered captain is Josh Allen. Really nothing crazy, 26.7%. So overweight to the field, but nothing like crazy aggressive. Next most rostered captain, Russell Wilson, well overweight to the field on him, followed by Stefon Diggs. And this is where ownership comes into play, because we have Josh Allen projected for 24.28 fantasy points. Stefon Diggs, 20.91. Russell Wilson, 16.56. So quite a bit less fantasy points than those guys, but still getting well overweight to the field on Russell Wilson in that captain spot, actually getting to more of them there than Stefon Diggs. And that's because he's got half the ownership of him in that spot. So that's one of these situations where the Sims could really help us find out who some of those lower owned players are to build some lineups around. And yeah, getting to some contrarian lineups building around the Broncos. This is like as contrarian as I can remember having lineups in here in quite some time. Some other players too that are lower owned that we're getting overweight to. I mentioned the Broncos defense being my highest projected lineup. I've got 38% of the Broncos here. Crazy amount of the Denver defense. Also getting well overweight to Adam Troutman. Troutman in 30% of my lineups when he's only projected for 13% ownership. So lots of Denver heavy lineups. And who are we underweight to? Underweight to Josh Allen in the flex spot. Part of this is because we're overweight to him in the captain, but still underweight to Josh Allen overall, underweight to Stefon Diggs, underweight to Gabe Davis, underweight to Samaje Perine. So leaning a little bit more towards rostering Javonte Williams at running back for Denver. Only 2.7% of my top 150 lineups have Perine. Also underweight to Cook. So underweight to like every single key player for the Buffalo Bills, whereas we are overweight to the field on pretty much every single key player from Denver, including the defense. Overweight to Jerry Jeudy, overweight to Russell Wilson, overweight to Courtland Sutton. So building these lineups in a way that I did not expect here. And I'm curious to see now, because I'm about to build out lineups for FanDuel. Already built them out, but we'll run them through the Sims here. Let's see if FanDuel is giving us similar results as to what we had for DK. And I said this is 25% to first payout. I'm pretty sure that that is what we have on FanDuel tonight. Let's see. So FanDuel, we have, whoops, clicked on the NBA tab. That's not going to help me. NFL tonight, Broncos-Bills. Yeah, we have the main contest there, $500,000 prize pool, paying 100% to 100,000 to first place. So 20% of the prize pool is going to be going to first. So if you want to select 20% or 25%, if you want to be like a little bit more different, I usually try to set it to the exact amount that it pays out to first place. But sometimes you guess wrong, which is what I did right there when I said it's 25%, it should have been 20%. But let's go ahead and look at my number one overall projected lineup. And one thing I'm noticing right away on FanDuel is getting to more of Josh Allen. He's in top projected lineups where that wasn't the case over on DK with some of those top lineups. But also leaving salary on the table. Of my top lineups in here, almost all of them are leaving some amount of salary on the table for FanDuel. Top projected lineup overall, Josh Allen in the MVP spot, the Bills defense, Courtland Sutton, Khalil Shakur, and then James Cook. So already way different looking lineups on FanDuel, where on DraftKings, we're leaning more towards Denver. And this could only be, just what my number one overall lineup looks like. But a Bills onslaught stack is my top projected lineup on FanDuel. Dupes, season lineups expect to be duped the heaviest, and still some of them making it into my top lineups. But Josh Allen, Russell Wilson, Tyler Bass, Khalil Shakur, and James Cook. That is the number one most duped lineup over on FanDuel. And then also this lineup, expect to have a lot of dupes as well. Josh Allen, Dalton Kincaid, Tyler Bass, James Cook, Javonte Williams. Both of those ended up being duped many, many times in the lineups that I ran. Let's look at the exposures now. And yeah, big difference. So over on DK, where we had 5 of our 6 most rostered players came from the Denver Broncos. Well, here over on FanDuel, 5 of our 6 most rostered players from the Buffalo Bills. So building Bills onslaught stacks over on FanDuel. Jerry Jeudy still showing up a bunch in the flex spot and overweight to him, but we have 42% MVP ownership to Josh Allen on FanDuel, just by far rating out as the top MVP option. Although still getting to some of Russell Wilson here, 26%. So he's a contrarian option, only projected for 8% ownership in the MVP spot that overweight to. But your number one option here is Josh Allen, particularly if you guys are playing cash games over on FanDuel for tonight. You're going to want to go with Josh Allen in that multiplier spot. Other core players from Buffalo, Dalton Kincaid, James Cook, Khalil Shakur, and then also getting to a bunch of the Bills defense. Still getting to Broncos defense, 29% over on FanDuel, so overweight to them, but not quite the same as it was over on DK, where we had a ton of the Broncos defense and not all that much of the Bills side of the game. Let's see who else we're getting to in the MVP spot. Some of Stefon Diggs, about even with the field. Some of James Cook, but also about even with the field, where we're really getting the bulk of the MVP exposures with the quarterbacks who are both overweight to in those spots. Who are we underweight to on FanDuel? Underweight to Josh Allen in the flex spot, but that's really just because we have so much MVP ownership to him. Hardly getting to any of Latavius Murray. Underweight to Stefon Diggs. So we're looking for a game script where Josh Allen's going to be running his touchdowns as opposed to throwing them to Stefon Diggs. And then underweight to Will Lutz at kicker, underweight to some of these other Denver players at MVP, Jerry Jeudy and Javonte Williams. Let's see if there's any other contrarian options here that we're overweight to. There was Russell Wilson, both the defenses, overweight to Khalil Shakur. He's projected for 20% ownership, got to him in 35% of lineups. And then also Courtland Sutton only projected for 12% ownership on FanDuel. So it looks like a pretty reasonable way to create some upside for yourself and differentiate from the field a little bit. And Courtland Sutton, he's got a touchdown pass in almost every single game for Denver this year, which does play better on FanDuel than DK, where there's only a half-point PPR bonus and touchdowns end up being weighted a little bit more overall. But that is a wrap-up of everything that we're looking at. FanDuel, DraftKings, top projected lineups, top value options, players to be overweight to, and all that good stuff. If you guys like the content, do me a favor, like, follow, subscribe. And if you want to sign up for our football package, I've got a link below that you could sign up right to it from there. It includes everything for every single slate we've got included here, all the different showdown slates, stuff like the afternoon slate, the main slates, all included in our contest generator and Sims tool. If you guys want more information on tonight's NFL slate, check out Lofty and Neil Orfield on NFL Live before lock tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Good luck with all your lineups tonight, guys. See you back here on the channel tomorrow.